Whispering Vales Chapter 1. The sea mist hung thick over Windward Bay as Eleanor stepped off the bus, its tendrils curling around her like a welcoming embrace. She paused, breathing in the briny air that carried whispers of the past and promises of the unknown. Her heart danced between apprehension and anticipation, each beat echoing the rhythmic crash of waves against the distant shore. "Back home at last," she murmured, though the words felt foreign on her tongue. It had been decades since she'd walked these cobblestone streets, and yet it was as if the town had been waiting for her all along. As she made her way through the narrow alleys lined with weathered stone cottages, memories stirred, a kaleidoscope of childhood dreams and mythical tales spun by her grandmother. Eleanor's steps faltered momentarily outside Whispering Pages, Ada Whistler's antiquarian bookstore. The old sign creaked in the breeze, and she couldn't resist peeking through the window at the dusty tomes within. A bell chimed softly as she entered, and Ada looked up from behind a counter stacked high with books. Her eyes crinkled into a smile that seemed to hold the weight of shared histories. "Eleanor, I was beginning to think you'd forgotten us entirely," Ada teased, her voice warm and melodic. Eleanor chuckled, feeling some of her tension ease. "How could I forget? This place is as much a part of me as the stories it holds." Ada nodded knowingly. "And yet, it's not just the books that call you back, is it?" Eleanor hesitated, then pulled out the letter from her late grandmother, a cryptic invitation to seek out the guardians of the Vale. She handed it to Ada, who read it with a furrowed brow. "The guardians," Ada mused, tapping a finger against her chin. "Your grandmother spoke of them often. Do you believe they're real?" "I'm not sure what I believe anymore," Eleanor admitted, "but I have to find out." Ada's gaze softened. "Then you're in the right place. Windward Bay has a way of revealing its secrets to those who listen." They spoke for a while longer, Ada weaving tales of the town's past with an ease born of years spent collecting its stories. Each anecdote was a thread in the tapestry of Windward Bay's history, and Eleanor found herself drawn into its intricate patterns. As she left the store, a sense of purpose settled over her. The market square bustled with life, vendors hawking fresh produce and handmade crafts, their voices mingling in a harmonious chorus. Eleanor wandered through the stalls, her senses alive to the vibrant colors and intoxicating scents. It was here she encountered Miranda Hawthorne, her childhood friend turned town historian. Miranda's silver-streaked hair danced in the breeze as she greeted Eleanor with an enthusiastic hug. "Look at you!" Miranda exclaimed, stepping back to appraise Eleanor with eyes that missed nothing. "You haven't aged a day." Eleanor laughed, shaking her head. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Miranda." They strolled together through the square, their conversation flowing like the tide, effortless and full of shared memories. "Do you remember how we used to pretend this place was enchanted?" Miranda asked, gesturing to the cobblestones beneath their feet. "Of course," Eleanor replied. "We believed magic was hidden around every corner." Miranda grew serious, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And perhaps it still is. The town feels different lately, like it's holding its breath." Eleanor considered this, her skepticism warring with a flicker of hope. "Could it be because of the guardians?" Miranda shrugged but offered a smile tinged with mystery. "There's only one way to find out." Their paths parted with promises to meet again soon, and Eleanor continued her exploration of Windward Bay. She ventured toward the lighthouse perched on its rugged cliff, a steadfast guardian watching over the town and sea alike. There she met Thomas, the reclusive lighthouse keeper, whose presence was as enigmatic as the stars he watched so closely. He emerged from his solitary post with a nod of acknowledgement. "Eleanor," he greeted in his gravelly voice, "the sea's been expecting you." "Has it now?" she replied, intrigued by his cryptic manner. Thomas gazed out at the horizon where sky met water in an endless embrace. "The tides bring change, you know. Sometimes they wash ashore things long forgotten." Eleanor followed his gaze, feeling both drawn to and daunted by the vastness before her. "And sometimes they take things away," she added softly. "Aye," Thomas agreed, turning back to her with eyes that seemed to see beyond what lay visible. "But it's up to us to decide what we hold on to." His words lingered with Eleanor as she descended from the lighthouse and made her way back into town. She was beginning to see that Windward Bay held more than just echoes of her past. It harbored possibilities for her future, if only she had the courage to embrace them. As dusk settled over the town, casting shadows that danced with lantern light, Eleanor found herself once more at the edge of discovery. The air thrummed with potential, an unspoken promise woven into every whispered tale and lingering glance. Her journey was just beginning, but already she felt its pull. A tapestry of connection unfolding before her like a map leading not just through Windward Bay, but into the depths of herself. And somewhere in those depths lay the answers she sought. The guardians of the veil, waiting patiently for belief to breathe life back into their fading magic. With renewed determination, Eleanor set off down the cobblestone streets toward whatever awaited beyond each twist and turn. A seeker on a path where reality blurred with imagination, and every step carried her closer to uncovering truths that had long slumbered beneath the sea mist's shroud. Chapter 2. Eleanor stood at the edge of Windward Bay, the morning mist curling around her ankles like a cat seeking attention. The lighthouse loomed ahead, its silhouette stark against the rising sun. She wrapped her coat tighter around herself, feeling the chill of anticipation more than the sea breeze. The path to the lighthouse was overgrown with wildflowers, their vibrant colors muted by dew. Eleanor found herself pausing to brush her fingers over their petals, each touch a reminder of childhood summers spent weaving crowns with her grandmother. But those days were gone, and she was here now for answers, not nostalgia. "Eleanor!" a voice called out, breaking the morning stillness. She turned to see Miranda Hawthorne approaching, her long scarf trailing behind like a comet's tail. "Miranda," Eleanor greeted, smiling at the sight of her old friend. "It's been too long." "Far too long," Miranda replied, her eyes twinkling with warmth and something else. Curiosity, perhaps. "What brings you to the lighthouse so early?" Eleanor hesitated, glancing back at the towering structure. "I received a letter from my grandmother after she passed. It mentioned something about the guardians of the veil." Miranda's expression shifted, a mix of intrigue and concern. "Ah, the guardians. The old tales still hold sway over this town, even if most have forgotten." "Do you believe in them?" Eleanor asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I used to," Miranda said, her gaze drifting toward the horizon where the sea met the sky. "But belief is a fragile thing." They walked together in silence for a moment, the only sound the crunch of gravel underfoot. As they reached the lighthouse steps, Eleanor paused, feeling a weight settle on her shoulders. "I need to know what my grandmother meant," Eleanor admitted. "Why she sent me that letter." Miranda nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Then let's find out together." The door to the lighthouse creaked open with a groan, revealing a spiral staircase winding upward into shadows. Eleanor took a deep breath and stepped inside, Miranda close behind. As they ascended, their footsteps echoed off the stone walls, mingling with the distant crash of waves. The air grew cooler, carrying with it a faint scent of salt and old stories waiting to be told. At the top, they found Thomas, the reclusive lighthouse keeper. He stood by the window, staring out at the sea as if reading an ancient script written on the waves. "Thomas," Miranda called softly. He turned slowly, his eyes bright with an intensity that seemed to pierce through Eleanor's defenses. "You seek answers," he said without preamble. Eleanor nodded, feeling both exposed and understood. "About the guardians." Thomas smiled enigmatically. "The stars and sea hold many secrets. Sometimes it's not about finding answers, but asking the right questions." "What questions should I be asking?" Eleanor pressed, her frustration bubbling beneath her calm exterior. Thomas chuckled softly. "Start with why you came back now. What drew you here beyond your grandmother's letter?" Eleanor blinked, caught off guard by the simplicity of his question. She had thought it was clear, closure, understanding, but perhaps it was more than that. "The town has changed," she said instead, sidestepping his inquiry. "It feels different." "That's because it is," Thomas replied cryptically. "Belief wanes, and with it, magic fades." Miranda placed a hand on Eleanor's arm, grounding her amidst Thomas's riddles. "We can rediscover it together," she said gently. Eleanor looked between them, Miranda with her steadfast support and Thomas with his enigmatic wisdom, and felt a flicker of hope stir within her. "Maybe that's why I'm here," she conceded, "to help revive what's been lost." Thomas nodded approvingly. "Then you're on the right path." As they descended back down the spiral staircase, Eleanor's mind churned with possibilities. She realized that Thomas's words had ignited something within her, a determination to bridge the gap between past and present, reality and myth. Back outside, the sun had fully risen, casting golden light across Windward Bay. Eleanor paused at the base of the lighthouse, turning to face Miranda. "Thank you for coming with me," she said earnestly. Miranda smiled warmly. "We're in this together." With renewed purpose, Eleanor made her way back toward town, each step a promise to herself and to Windward Bay, a promise to uncover its hidden truths and reignite its fading magic. The cobblestone streets felt less daunting now as she walked alongside Miranda. The market square bustled with life as vendors set up their stalls for the day ahead. Eleanor's gaze drifted toward Ada Whistler's bookstore. Whispering pages, she felt a pull toward its familiar comfort and wisdom waiting within its walls. "Shall we visit Ada?" Miranda suggested, following Eleanor's line of sight. "Yes," Eleanor agreed readily. "I think it's time we hear what she has to say." Together they crossed the square, their footsteps blending into the symphony of Windward Bay, a town poised on the brink of rediscovery. As they entered Whispering Pages, Eleanor felt a sense of belonging wash over her, a feeling she'd thought lost forever, but now found rekindled amidst the whispers of past and present intertwined. Ada greeted them with a knowing smile from behind her counter piled high with books. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and wisdom as she beckoned them closer. "Eleanor," Ada said warmly, "I've been expecting you." The words carried weight beyond mere greeting, a promise of stories yet untold and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Eleanor felt something shift within her, a resolve to embrace whatever lay ahead with open arms and an open heart. In this enchanted corner of Windward Bay where reality blurred with dreams, she knew one thing for certain: this journey was only just beginning. Chapter 3. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked pastries as Eleanor stepped into Lila's Cafe, a cozy nook nestled in the heart of Windward Bay's old market square. The cafe was a haven of warmth and nostalgia, its walls adorned with sepia-toned photographs of the town's bygone days. Sunlight streamed through the large bay windows, casting golden patterns on the polished wooden floor. Lila, the cafe owner, greeted Eleanor with a wide smile. Her hands were dusted with flour, and her eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief. "Eleanor, it's been too long," she exclaimed, wiping her hands on her apron before pulling Eleanor into a warm embrace. "Too long indeed," Eleanor replied, feeling a familiar comfort in Lila's presence. "I see the place hasn't changed much." Lila chuckled, leading Eleanor to a table near the window. "Well, some things are better left unchanged, like my grandmother's recipes." She gestured to the display case filled with an array of pastries, each one a masterpiece of flaky crusts and vibrant fillings. As they sat down, Lila poured them both steaming cups of coffee. The rich aroma mingled with the sweet scents of sugar and spice, creating an intoxicating blend that seemed to wrap around Eleanor like a comforting shawl. "So," Lila began, her voice playful yet probing, "what brings you back to our little corner of the world? I heard whispers about a mysterious letter." Eleanor sipped her coffee, savoring its warmth before answering. "Yes, a letter from my grandmother. It hinted at something called the Guardians of the Veil. Do you know anything about them?" Lila leaned back, her expression thoughtful. "Ah, the Guardians. They're part of the town's folklore. Spirits that protect the boundary between our world and whatever lies beyond." She paused, watching Eleanor closely. "But you know how tales grow in the telling." Eleanor nodded, her mind already spinning with possibilities. "I've always loved those stories, but I'm not sure what to believe anymore." "Belief is a tricky thing," Lila mused, reaching for a pastry and breaking it apart. "Sometimes it's not about what you believe, but why you choose to believe it." Their conversation drifted into silence, punctuated only by the soft clatter of cutlery and the gentle hum of conversations around them. Eleanor watched as Lila's customers came and went, each leaving with a smile and a pastry wrapped in brown paper. "Do you ever wonder if there's more to these tales than just stories?" Eleanor asked suddenly. Lila shrugged, her eyes twinkling with an enigmatic light. "Every tale has a kernel of truth. The trick is finding it." As Eleanor pondered Lila's words, a young boy approached their table. His hair was tousled by the sea breeze and his cheeks were flushed with excitement. Miss Lila, I found something." Lila grinned at him. "Oliver, what have you got there?" Oliver placed a small seashell on the table with reverence. It was iridescent, shimmering with hues of blue and green that seemed to shift in the light. "It's magic," Oliver declared confidently. Lila laughed softly, ruffling his hair. "Is it now? And what makes you think that?" Oliver leaned in conspiratorially, his voice a stage whisper. "I saw it glow last night by the lighthouse." Eleanor exchanged a glance with Lila, her curiosity piqued. "The lighthouse? At night?" Oliver nodded vigorously. "I go there sometimes when I can't sleep. The stars are brighter there." Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine, not from fear but from a sense of something just out of reach, something waiting to be discovered. "Maybe I should visit the lighthouse myself," she said thoughtfully. Lila smiled knowingly. "You might find more than just stars there." As Oliver skipped away, clutching his shell like a treasure, Eleanor turned back to Lila. "He seems to have quite the imagination." "Children often see things we adults overlook," Lila replied softly. "Sometimes they remind us to look beyond what we think we know." Eleanor finished her coffee and stood up, feeling invigorated by the conversation. "Thank you, Lila, for everything." "Anytime," Lila said warmly. "And remember, magic is where you find it." Eleanor stepped out into the market square, her mind buzzing with new questions and old memories. The sun hung high above, casting long shadows across the cobblestones as she made her way toward the lighthouse. The path wound through the town's narrow alleys, past weathered cottages and gardens bursting with color. Eleanor's steps were light as she followed Oliver's imagined trail, a path that promised not just answers, but also a deeper connection to the place she once called home. As she neared the lighthouse, its tall silhouette against the azure sky seemed both inviting and foreboding. The sea mist curled around its base like a guardian spirit watching over Windward Bay. Eleanor paused at the foot of the lighthouse, taking in its sturdy stonework and weathered paint. A seagull cried overhead as if urging her forward into whatever mysteries awaited within. Her hand brushed against something cold and smooth, a plaque set into the stone wall beside the entrance. The inscription was worn but legible, "To guide those who wander between worlds." Taking a deep breath, Eleanor pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled faintly of salt water and aged wood, a scent that spoke of countless nights spent keeping watch over sailors lost at sea. As Eleanor climbed the spiral staircase leading up to the lantern room above, each step echoed like a heartbeat, a reminder that she was not alone in this journey between past and present. Reaching the top, she emerged into a room bathed in golden light, the sun streaming through glass panes that framed breathtaking views of Windward Bay below. In this liminal space where land met sea, and perhaps even reality met dream, Eleanor felt something shift within her, an awakening, or perhaps simply an acceptance that some questions need not be answered outright, but rather lived through fully until their truths reveal themselves naturally over time. Standing there amidst whispers carried by ocean breezes, whispers echoing childhood dreams shared long ago, Eleanor knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay ahead would require courage, not just to seek out forgotten guardians or unravel cryptic clues left by generations past, but also courage enough to believe wholeheartedly once more, in magic's enduring presence woven throughout life's tapestry, even when unseen by skeptical eyes searching for tangible proof alone. And so began Eleanor's true quest, not merely seeking hidden truths buried beneath layers upon layers across Windward Bay, but ultimately rediscovering herself anew amidst all these threads interwoven tightly together, forming intricate patterns, connecting past, present, future, seamlessly bound together forevermore. Chapter 4. The morning mist clung to Windward Bay like a silken veil, whispering secrets in the spaces between the cobblestones. Eleanor walked briskly through the market square, the scent of salt mingling with the aroma of freshly baked bread from Lila's cafe. She felt the sea air invigorate her senses, as if urging her to unravel the mysteries that had drawn her back to this place. As she approached the edge of the woods, Eleanor paused, taking in the lush greenery that seemed to pulse with life. The path into the forest beckoned, dappled sunlight dancing on its surface. It was a path she had trodden many times in her youth, when her grandmother's tales of magical creatures and hidden worlds were as real as the earth beneath her feet. "Hello, Eleanor," came a voice from behind. Eleanor turned to see Miranda Hawthorne, the town's unofficial historian, emerging from the shadows. Her presence was as familiar as it was unexpected. Miranda's silver hair caught the light, giving her an ethereal appearance that matched the surroundings. "Miranda," Eleanor greeted warmly. "I didn't expect to see you here." Miranda smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "I often find myself drawn to these woods. They have a way of reminding us of things we've forgotten." Eleanor nodded, understanding the sentiment. "There's something about this place," she said softly, "like it's alive with stories waiting to be told." "Exactly," Miranda replied, her gaze sweeping over the trees, "and some stories are just beginning." They walked together, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. The forest seemed to embrace them, the rustling leaves whispering secrets only they could hear. "Have you thought more about your grandmother's letter?" Miranda asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Eleanor sighed, her thoughts a tangled web of memories and questions. "I have, but I'm still not sure what to make of it all. These guardians of the veil. Do you think they're real?" Miranda chuckled softly. "Real or not, they've been part of our town's lore for generations. Sometimes belief itself is enough to give life to myths." Eleanor pondered this as they reached a clearing where sunlight streamed through the canopy, illuminating a circle of wildflowers in vivid hues. It was a place steeped in magic, if one chose to see it that way. "I want to believe," Eleanor admitted, "but it's hard to shake off years of skepticism." "Belief is a journey," Miranda said gently, "and you're already on your way." Their conversation drifted into silence as they stood in the clearing, each lost in their own thoughts. The air was thick with possibility, and Eleanor felt a stirring within her, a flicker of hope that perhaps there was more to this world than met the eye. "Did I ever tell you about the time I saw one of the guardians?" Miranda asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. Eleanor turned to her friend, curiosity piqued. "No, you haven't." "It was years ago," Miranda began, her eyes distant with memory. "I was about your age now, wandering these woods much like we are today. I caught a glimpse, just a shadow among the trees, but it felt ancient, as if it had been watching over us for centuries." Eleanor listened intently, feeling a shiver run down her spine at Miranda's words. "I can't explain it," Miranda continued, "but I knew then that our stories held truth woven into their fabric." Eleanor considered this revelation, her mind racing with possibilities. If Miranda had seen something, anything, it meant there was more to explore, more to discover. As they made their way back towards town, Eleanor felt a renewed sense of purpose. The whispers in the woods had spoken to her, and she was determined to listen. Back in Windward Bay, Eleanor parted ways with Miranda and headed towards Whispering Pages, Ada Whistler's antiquarian bookstore. The shop was nestled in a quiet corner of the market square, its windows filled with books that seemed to hum with untold tales. Ada greeted Eleanor with a warm smile as she entered. "Ah, Eleanor, just the person I wanted to see." "Hello, Ada," Eleanor replied, feeling comforted by the familiar surroundings. Ada motioned for Eleanor to sit at a small table near the window. "I've been thinking about your grandmother's letter," she said. "There might be something here that can help you." Eleanor watched as Ada retrieved an old leather-bound tome from one of the shelves. Its pages were yellowed with age, and it exuded an aura of mystery. "This book contains accounts of those who claimed encounters with the guardians," Ada explained, placing it gently before Eleanor. "Perhaps you'll find some answers within its pages." Eleanor ran her fingers over the worn cover, feeling a connection to those who had come before her, those who had dared to believe in magic. "Thank you, Ada," she said sincerely. "Your faith in these stories gives me hope." Ada chuckled softly. "Hope is what keeps us going, dear. And remember, sometimes it takes looking beyond what's visible to find what truly matters." As Eleanor delved into the book's contents, she felt an undeniable pull towards something greater than herself, a legacy that spanned generations and whispered promises of wonders yet to be discovered. With each turn of the page, Eleanor's resolve strengthened. She knew now that her journey was only just beginning, a journey that would require courage and belief in equal measure. As dusk settled over Windward Bay and lanterns flickered to life along its cobblestone streets, Eleanor felt a sense of anticipation building within her. a feeling that perhaps the veil between worlds was thinner than she had ever imagined. And so, armed with newfound determination and guided by whispers both ancient and new, Eleanor prepared to uncover the truths hidden within Windward Bay, a quest that would forever alter her perception of reality and her place within it. Chapter 5. The sea mist hung low over Windward Bay, clinging to the cobblestones like a secret. Eleanor walked slowly, her footsteps echoing softly in the early morning quiet. The town was just waking, the air thick with the scent of salt and blooming jasmine, as if the earth itself exhaled a fragrant sigh. She paused at the edge of the market square, watching the vendors set up their stalls under the watchful eye of the ancient lighthouse perched on its cliff. "Good morning, Eleanor," called Lila from behind her counter, where pastries glistened with a sugary sheen. "Come try today's special. It might just remind you of something you've forgotten." Eleanor smiled, accepting a warm croissant. "Thank you, Lila. Your pastries always have a way of bringing back memories I didn't know I had." As she took a bite, the buttery layers melted on her tongue, conjuring images of childhood summers spent in her grandmother's garden, chasing fireflies under a canopy of stars. The taste was a portal to the past, one she hadn't known she'd needed. Lila watched her with knowing eyes. Sometimes all it takes is a taste or a smell to bring everything rushing back. Memory is a powerful thing, isn't it? "It is," Eleanor agreed, her thoughts lingering on the letter that had brought her back to Windward Bay. "And sometimes it feels like there's more magic in a memory than in reality itself." They exchanged a look, one that held understanding and an unspoken acknowledgement of the town's peculiar charm, a charm that seemed to shimmer just beneath the surface. Eleanor continued on her way, weaving through the square until she reached Whispering Pages. The old bookstore was nestled among weathered stone buildings, its windows filled with an eclectic mix of books that promised adventure and mystery. She pushed open the door, greeted by the comforting scent of parchment and ink. "Ada?" she called softly. From behind a towering stack of books emerged Ada Whistler, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Eleanor, just the person I was hoping to see." Eleanor returned the smile, feeling an ease settle over her in Ada's presence. "I was hoping you might have some insight into these guardians of the veil my grandmother mentioned." Ada gestured for Eleanor to sit at a small table tucked into a corner. "Ah, the guardians," she mused, settling into a chair across from her. "Not many remember them now, but they were once believed to be protectors of our world and theirs." "And you believe they're real?" Eleanor asked, both curious and skeptical. Ada leaned back, considering her words carefully. "Belief is a tricky thing. It's not always about what's real or not, but what we choose to see and hold on to. The guardians are as real as we allow them to be." Eleanor nodded slowly. "My grandmother seemed to think they were important." "She was right," Ada said softly. "Our stories and beliefs shape our world more than we realize. If we forget them, we risk losing not just our past, but our future too." Their conversation drifted into tales of old, each story a thread that wove together the tapestry of Windward Bay's history. Eleanor listened intently, feeling as though each word unlocked another piece of her grandmother's legacy. Later, as Eleanor made her way toward the lighthouse, she contemplated Ada's words about belief and memory. The path wound through clusters of wildflowers, their colors vibrant against the muted backdrop of mist and sea. She could hear the distant call of seagulls mingling with the rhythmic crash of waves, a symphony that had accompanied her childhood dreams. Reaching the lighthouse, she found Thomas standing on the edge of the cliff, his silhouette stark against the morning sky. He turned as she approached, his eyes reflecting both wisdom and mystery. "Eleanor," he greeted with a nod, "the stars whispered you'd come." She chuckled softly, though his words sent a shiver down her spine. "I wonder what else they've told you." Thomas gave a cryptic smile. "They speak of guardians and veils, of worlds intertwined like threads in a tapestry." "Do you think there's truth in these whispers?" she asked earnestly. He gazed out over the sea, his expression thoughtful. "Truth is like the tide, always shifting. What matters is what we choose to hold on to when everything else changes." His words lingered with her as they stood together in silence, watching the horizon where sky met sea, a boundary as elusive as the line between reality and legend. As Eleanor returned home later that day, her mind buzzed with stories and possibilities. She understood now that her journey was not just about uncovering ancient secrets, but about rediscovering herself and her place within this world of whispers and wonders. The evening descended gently over Windward Bay, lanterns flickering to life along cobblestone streets as if guiding her path forward. Eleanor felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to rally the community around their shared myths before they slipped away entirely. And so, with resolve burning bright as the lighthouse's beam cutting through foggy night, she prepared to step fully into her grandmother's legacy, a legacy woven from dreams and tales that refused to fade even as time marched on. For somewhere within this mystical town lay answers waiting patiently to be unveiled, guardians watching over those who dared believe in magic once more. Chapter 6. The morning sun crested over the horizon, casting Windward Bay in a gentle glow that shimmered like a pearl nestled between sea and sky. Eleanor walked the cobblestone streets, the familiar scent of salt and jasmine mingling in the air, each breath a reminder of homecoming. Her mind was a whirlpool of thoughts, stirred by the enigmatic letter from her grandmother and the cryptic tales she'd unearthed since her return. The market square bustled with life, vendors setting up their stalls, their chatter a comforting hum. Eleanor's destination lay at the edge of this vibrant scene, the small antiquarian bookstore, whispering pages, where Ada Whistler awaited her. The bell above the door tinkled as she entered, a sound that echoed with nostalgia. Ada looked up from behind a stack of books, her eyes twinkling with a mixture of mischief and wisdom. "Eleanor, dear," she greeted warmly, "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten your way here." "Never," Eleanor replied, crossing the room to embrace her old friend. Ada's presence was a balm to her restless soul, each visit to the bookstore a step deeper into the mysteries that cloaked Windward Bay. They settled into worn armchairs near the window, sunlight streaming in to dance across the pages of open books. "I've been thinking about the Guardians," Eleanor began, her voice tinged with both curiosity and skepticism. "Do you truly believe they're fading because people have stopped believing in magic?" Ada chuckled softly, a sound like leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. "Belief is a powerful thing, Eleanor. It shapes our reality more than we care to admit." She paused, fingers tracing the spine of an ancient tome. "When people forget to believe, the magic that once thrived begins to wither." Eleanor considered this. But what if it's all just stories? Myths passed down to entertain or teach lessons? Ada's gaze was steady, her expression thoughtful. Even if they are just stories, they hold truths within them. Truths about who we are and who we can be. Their conversation wove through memories and legends, Ada recounting tales of childhood dreams spun by Eleanor's grandmother, tales that had once seemed fanciful, but now felt urgent and real. As they spoke, Eleanor felt the weight of her own skepticism begin to lift, replaced by a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years: wonder. Leaving Ada's shop with a promise to return soon, Eleanor wandered through the town, her thoughts tangled with possibilities. She found herself at Leela's cafe, where the aroma of freshly baked pastries wafted out to greet her like an old friend. Inside, Leela was bustling about, arranging scones and tarts with an artist's care. "Eleanor," she called out cheerfully upon seeing her, "come try these new lavender honey muffins. I swear they'll transport you back to simpler times." Eleanor smiled, accepting one of the offered treats. As she bit into it, memories flooded back. Sunlit afternoons spent in her grandmother's garden, laughter echoing among the blooms. It was as though Leela's pastries held some enchantment of their own. "You've always had a knack for making magic with flour and sugar," Eleanor remarked, savoring the warmth spreading through her. Leela grinned, wiping her hands on her apron. "Magic is everywhere if you know where to look for it," she replied enigmatically. Their conversation turned to lighter topics, town gossip and Lila's latest culinary experiments, but beneath it all lingered an unspoken understanding of the town's mystical undercurrents. Leela's easy acceptance of these mysteries mirrored Eleanor's growing belief that perhaps there was more to Windward Bay than met the eye. As evening descended, Eleanor found herself drawn toward the lighthouse perched on its rugged cliff. The path wound through whispering woods, each step echoing with stories untold. The lighthouse stood sentinel against the encroaching night, its beam cutting through the gathering mist like a guardian's watchful eye. Thomas, the reclusive keeper of this beacon, emerged from the shadows as if summoned by her thoughts. His presence was as much a part of this place as the rocks and sea spray. "I see you've come seeking answers," he said in his usual cryptic manner. Eleanor nodded, meeting his gaze. "The veil between worlds? Is it truly thinning? Are we losing something irreplaceable?" Thomas regarded her for a long moment before speaking. "The veil is as strong as our belief in it," he said finally. "But yes, time wears thin when memories fade." They stood together in silence, watching as the lighthouse's light swept across the bay, a constant amidst an ever-changing world. In that moment, Eleanor felt a connection not just to Thomas or the town, but to something far greater, a legacy stretching back through generations. "Will you help me?" she asked quietly. "Help me remind everyone what we stand to lose?" Thomas nodded slowly. "It takes only one spark to rekindle a flame." As Eleanor made her way back down the path toward town, she felt buoyed by hope and purpose. The conversations she'd had throughout the day echoed within her, each voice adding depth and meaning to her journey. She knew now that belief was not about accepting without question, but embracing possibility despite doubt. And in doing so, she could help Windward Bay remember its own magic before it slipped away entirely. With renewed determination, Eleanor resolved to rally those around her, to weave together stories old and new until they formed a tapestry strong enough to hold back time itself. The sea mist swirled around her as she walked, a tangible reminder of both mystery and promise, and Eleanor smiled into the gathering dusk, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Thank you for listening to My Ghostwriter.